Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another wonderful new series on Oxygen Not Included Spaced Out. We had a lot of suggestions on what kind of series we should do next, one of which was the new mod by Bummins on Steam called Beator, and it definitely looks interesting. The problem with Beator is it's still relatively new, which means it's not going to be the most stable. As a YouTuber, the one thing I do need is stability, so that way we don't run into any sort of crashes or problems before we're able to get a colony and a bunch of videos out, and we don't ruin a series right after it starts. Being that it just came out though, I figured maybe after this series, it might be stable enough because I am really interested in doing one of those runs. It definitely looks like it adds a different mechanic to it. We have also yet to do a full max difficulty run, and you can do that by changing all these settings in here. A lot of people complain saying, the game's too easy and disease doesn't matter as much. Well, all you do is go into game settings and change to outbreak prone, and then good luck, you'll have plenty of good problems. We're not going to do that this time either because we're going to do something a little bit different, something I've never tried before. And that's, we're only going to use dupe power. That's right. It does not matter how far we go in this colony, we are only using dupe power. Rocket program, dupe power. Oxygen supply, dupe power. Food generation, etc., etc. Everything will be operated off of dupe power. We're also going to throw in a little bit of zoo action. We had a bunch of requests for doing a zoo, and we're just going to try to collect all the animals around the map and make sure we have one cool little area for each animal in the game. These are the dupes that we're going with to start off with. We have Gossman, who's a digger with a little bit of germ resistance, which is great to have on a digger, especially when you're hitting those slime biomes and maybe some of those zombie spore areas in the oil biome. They're a yokel, so they can't do researching errands, but who cares? Gossman's never going to be doing research. For that, we have Gene. Gene's a +8 science, and without too much clicking, we actually got one with quick learner. Unfortunately, they do take a long time in the potty. And then we have Marie. We're going with a little bit of different setup. I want to see how it goes having a builder instead of a second digger. This will make some of our early building tasks a little bit quicker, and it'll also allow us to easily transition into an early mechatronics engineer. They'll still be a decent digger because they do have the mole hands. And finally, they just can't do any cooking. We don't care. We will eventually have a cook. We're naming it Hamster Cage because we're going to have a bunch of hamsters. They're going to be running all the time. We're going to have a pretty advanced dupe gym sort of setup. My guess is eventually we'll probably have 25 to 30 dupes who are non-stop responsible for power generation around the colony. Let's see how it goes. So first things first is we did decide to start on the forest cluster. We haven't done a new start on this cluster, so I thought it'd be interesting to try this one out. We see a lot of aluminum ore. That's kind of nice. Some igneous rock right at the start. Some dirt. The closest water we have, though, is way down here. That's going to take a minute to get to. Lots of hexalin fruit, though. Love to see that. We even have some little cute pips. Welcome, buddy. Now, as we're digging and getting everything set up, one important thing to keep in mind is because we're going to be running so many dupes, because we basically need double the amount of dupes for that power generation requirement, means we're going to try to stay off of using critters in a major way. For instance, I'm going to steer away from Pacu farms and hatches and shinebug reactors for the simple reason is with that many dupes, it's already going to slow the simulation down a little bit anyways. We don't want to add 100, 200, 400 critters to the map and make it even worse. But we're going to have to see what our initial food source is going to be because we may not have a choice. It looks like with this initial amount of dirt, this is a lot of dirt, we may be able to run mealwood for at least getting everything started. Of course, we have a ton of hexalin, so we do definitely have time. Alright, we've got our pitcher pump in with our access to water, a couple of cots, and our beautiful wash basins and outhouses. We did finally get some of that aluminum, so we will be able to throw down some beautiful doors to make these rooms. I think at this point, we're going to be able to set up our research table right next to the beautiful printing pod, and this will give us that bonus to initial research. because our duplicate will get the well-lit buff. We're also going to break into here. We want to get this beautiful Hexalent. We'll probably close it up again after we get the Hexalent out. That way we get the morale bonus for the latrine. And now we're going to put down our first manual generator. Let's get used to it. It's the only thing we're using. I've noticed a few oxyferns down here. They'll help a little bit with some beginning of the carbon dioxide sinks. A quick journey out to the star map so we can click on our planetoid shows us that we're going to have a little bit of water here. We will have a cool slush geyser and a cool salt slush geyser. We do have one minor volcano, but no sort of metal volcanoes to speak of. We have a chlorine gas vent and a cool steam vent. Our biomes, we got the forest, space, magma, barren, rust, tundra, jungle, and wasteland. The addition of the tundra biome means we'll have plenty of access to ice and be able to cool down some of our earlier machines. Alright, despite them not being completely finished with the wheel and the battery, we do have the research station in, so we can go ahead and decide on research. I always love getting the jumbo battery first because the power efficiency off the jumbo is just so much better. After that, we'll probably go up to basic farming and grab some planter boxes and or farm tiles. Middle of the first night, we didn't quite get to the mess tables, not a big deal. We're going to dig out some more area here, put down a little introductory mess hall, before we really decide on the makeup of our initial base. All these things here will likely end up getting moved, but we will see. We'll just continue to queue up some commands, which, since they're sleeping, I think it's probably a good time to start looking at priorities and schedules. We don't want anybody in the colony to be doing research, save our researcher, Gene. Gossman's our digger, so let's put up digging and building there. And then the same for Gene. Now, I don't like to double arrow my digging because I always want them to build the ladders and the scaffolding before they dig it out. It just helps a little bit without getting the dupes stuck so often. Whereas if you do it like this, well, then they're more likely to dig holes in and around them and then get stuck. Over on the schedule front, we added a few different shifts, and then we'll set them up and just stagger them off of our previous default schedule. There, I think that looks good. And yes, I am aware that you can remove one bedtime slot, but I kind of like letting the dupes sleep in a little bit. You know, they're going to be running an awful lot. We like to take care of our dupes around here, so we leave it at 3 for now. Oh, I almost forgot to enable proximity. I love using enable proximity just to make sure the dupes do what they're supposed to, and then see if there's any tasks close by before they run all the way away. Oh, and my foolish self, I forgot to dig this area out, so they couldn't get to the manual generator. Doing a quick look around the area as we're digging up and out for the temperature differences. And right now, I think our biggest concern is going to be some of the cold areas. You can see down here, it gets pretty cold. And then likewise, up in this corner here. Just something for us to keep an eye on to make sure that we can continuously grow our crop. Beautiful. Our jumbo batteries are finished with power regulation. We will go up here and select meal prep. We want our mess tables. Put down our big Chungus battery right here. And once we get this built and charged up, we'll then remove the single battery. Lulz. I was wondering why Marie wasn't prioritizing building our manual generator. So I go up here to priorities and yeah, I'm sure many of you saw it. I accidentally put Gene into digging and building as a priority, which we couldn't really tell because she had a very high priority to do researching. Oops. New dupe time. Taking a quick look, I was really hopeful to get somebody strong, but check this one out. May has tryptophobia and nyctophobia, and is a tidier doctor. And then we got Ada's also a doctor, and then we had Joshua is a weird digger researcher thing, and no, it's all looking bad, so we'll just go with the coal. So I was realizing as I was looking around the map, there's no algae. Without algae means we're not running any oxygen diffusers, so it looks like we are going to be starting off with some weird rust oxygen, so we're going to have to get that researched rather quickly. And for those of you not familiar with it, this is the rust deoxidizer. It'll convert rust into oxygen and chlorine and is generally considered not ideal, especially considering we're going to have all this chlorine when it's all said and done. Maybe we should just jump straight into an electrolyzer setup, albeit a little differently because it's not going to be self-powered because we only use Dupe power around these parts. But I don't know if we can find that water source soon enough. Either way, with meal preparation done, we're going to go directly into air systems just to make sure we have the option. Now, it's not a huge emergency right now. We still have plenty of oxygen here, and we still have some of these little pockets too. And we also have a little bit of oxalite still hanging around the map. But what we are going to do is open up this area here and treat it as our carbon sink. We may try to get a pip to do some natural planting on some oxyferns so we don't have to pay the dirt cost. In order to do that, though, I'd have to wrangle this pip and get him over there or just hope that he walks over in there. We'll see. So what I've done to incentivize the pip planting our oxyfern seeds where we want them, we're taking all the mealwood and mirthleaf seeds and putting them in this storage bin here. This storage bin will hold our oxyfern seeds. So hopefully the pip will come around here, grab one of them, and plant a few down here. If not, we'll pay the dirt cost. Next up, we're going to go into advanced research, grabbing employment on the way, and that way we have the beautiful water cooler for our dupes in their mess hall. No, buddy, that's not where we wanted that planted. I'm going to wait for that little pip to come down here, and then we're going to lock him in. Side note, pips don't care about ladders. So he got into our beautiful mirthleaf and mealwood seed. So let's go ahead and floor that up, shall we? Research is going very well. We're already finished with advanced research. I'm going to grab some brute force refinement and some refined renovations. And since we're on this run, we might as well just get smelting. Just click one and let them go. I don't think there's anything we need specifically right now except probably more dupes. Beautiful. We have all the oxyferns being stored down here and a pip is stuck in here. This will work out well. So at first I wasn't crazy about Burt. They have a +9 to cuisine, but they're a Luddite, which means they have decreased machinery. I don't believe this will affect the speed on the grill. I really can't pass up a +9 cook this early in the game, so we're going to go ahead and grab Burt. We could use the extra labor anyways. Alright, we've made a fair bit of progress. Some of the great things that I like is our rust oxidizers are doing a pretty good job. We've got our entire dugout cavern here pretty oxygenated. We're sitting on about 15 tons of rust and 7 tons of salt. Zooming in on our rust deoxidizer, you can see that it's consuming 750 grams of rust and about 83 grams of salt. So it's not too bad, but it's obviously not a permanent solution. Now, unfortunately, this is going to give us a ton of chlorine. Luckily for us, the carbon dioxide is heavier than the chlorine, so it sinks further. And our pip down here is doing a decent job planting some more oxyferns. We're also filling in this area with all the leftover ethanol we have. We don't want any of the carbon dioxide to sink into here. We want it to go over here. We have a ton of ethanol bottles all stored up from a tank over here that we dropped. So this will eventually fill. Not too worried about it. Now, because there is so much hexalant, we have 172 kilos of food that will never go off. And at 1,000 kilos per day, or I guess you could say 4,000 kilos a day, considering we have 4 dupes, we have food for quite a long time. Quite literally a little over 40 cycles. So I'm not as concerned about our food right now, but I do want to get off these rust deoxidizers as soon as possible. Luckily, there does seem to be plenty of rust deposits on this map. I just don't want to get down into here because you can see the temperature is much lower than what we'd like. Plus, we've built this cool little pip-provided oxyfern area to consume all that carbon dioxide. So we're going to wait before we dig lower. We also managed to find our cool slush geyser, which this could be the cool slush geyser that feeds our oxygen production. We have one more geyser that I'd like to find before we make the decision. Because this is awfully cold in here. The polluted water is coming out at -10°C. We'd have some problems making that oxygen before the water froze in the pipes. Unless we transported this polluted water to a warmer area. Oh, look at this. More oxyferns and some oxalite. We'll definitely dig into that. On this side of the map, we found both our teleporters, which that's pretty exciting. We also found some spindly grub fruits, along with the beautiful sweetles. I was thinking about possibly going with grubs and grub fruit for food. And I think we found our other geyser. I think it's tucked in right here, but it kind of looks a little too high. So I'm not 100% sure. We're going to keep digging around to try to find out. I know you could do the priority trick, but that still seems kind of exploity. Makes me feel all dirty inside. One of the good things about this tundra biome here is it doesn't look like there's any abyssalite breaks. So we don't have to worry about the cool coming in. Unfortunately, we're eventually going to have to break in to get some of this water. I'm really hoping this is not a geyser up here. I don't think it is based on the way it was erupting. It seemed like it would be too high. Now, the most recent patch has added ladder beds that we just unlocked. Really cool. It's like a ladder and a dupe can sleep there. It's going to be great for some rockets. The disadvantage, though, is you can see the cod has plus 100% stamina and plus 25% health per cycle. Ladder bed duplicates it, except the ladders themselves are minus 25 run speed, and they require refined metal. We've been scaling up pretty good based on all that digging and everything we're doing. So Gossman's already gotten a super duper hard digging. Jean, we're going to throw into some more research. And Marie, we're actually going to split her off and start letting her expertise go into operating. Our morale's still doing great based on the Great Hall we have, the barracks, and the latrine. Still 164,000 calories of excellent. So I got tired of waiting for a rancher, and I know we're not going to be prioritizing ranching in any sort of thing, but it doesn't mean we still can't do any ranching. We want to make sure our frame rates are going to be good. So Bert's still going to be our cook, but temporarily we're going to put him into Critter Ranching 1. Now I get it, we don't even need cooking right now, but we're at 145,000 kilos of excellent fruit. Once we get some more dupes, we'll throw down some meal lice. After all, we've got over 1,000 tons of dirt. But what I think we're going to do here in the meantime, we're going to naturally plant some salt vine seeds to consume some of this chlorine. Now, let's not get excited. It's not a lot, but it'll be enough to where at least we're not having this huge buildup. Something to do while we're trying to crack that nut about where we're going to get our water source for our oxygen supply from. Now it's time to wrangle up these guys, and there's a ton of pips around here, which is very cool because pips can be fun to play with. But I think that'll be good there. Oh, wait, there's a couple more over here. You, where did you get a seed? Oh, it's a mealwood seed. I don't know where you got it from, but we're definitely going to take it from you. So let's look at the math here for a moment. A rust deoxidizer produces 30 grams per second of chlorine. Our beautiful Dasa salt vine consumes 6 grams per second of chlorine, which means if we can get 6 of these salt vine planted for each of these rust deoxidizers, they'll actually consume all of the chlorine here. This door was a holdover when we didn't have airflow tiles, but we did have a gap. We wanted the carbon dioxide to still sink through. So now we'll fill it back in with some airflow tiles. So we almost have our entire starting biome cored out, which it was a very large starting biome, which pretty fortunate. I kind of like this little forest biome start. A lot of different options. We're putting a manual airlock in place because we want the carbon dioxide to sit here. And once we get all the rust out of here and some more beautiful salt vine, we'll just close it up and forget where we came from. Over here, trying to find out what this was, we've kind of let it go, which is not good, so we're going to seal it back up with some newly researched insulated tiles. We'll put those there, it'll lock this up. We definitely don't want to melt this entire biome, and that's exactly what would happen with a cool steam vent. The good news is we did find the other geyser. It's below our starting biome, so now we have to decide, do we want to use the brine, or do we want to use the polluted water? Last time we went with the brine, which gave us a forever source of salt. This time I think we might go with the cool slush geyser, at least until we figure out what requirements we're going to have for water. Now, one interesting thing about this one is it puts out 10 kilos per second, but that's going to mean that its active period is going to be very low. Because normally, all said and done, these things normally produce, I guess, between 3-5 kilos per second perpetually. So if I had to guess, this active period is going to be very low. A little funny that we called this colony hamster cage because, well, dupes are going to be running on wheels for the entire colony. But doesn't this little baby pipsqueak look like a little hamster? Too bad pipsqueaks don't run on wheels. I was just about getting ready to say that we haven't had a lot of luck with the dupe front, but then along came Abe. Abe's a doctor and a cook, but he starts with the Tier 1 grilling, which is kind of convenient. He can't do any building errands, but there'll be plenty of other stuff for them to do. I kind of already have our 2 cooks, and we'll be able to throw Abe into just a little bit of doctoring whenever that time comes as well. Plus, now we have 5 dupes. Just cooking along now. So we've set in our sort of temporary power facility. This is going to be the basics of how we are going to run power the entirety of the series. And it's a pretty simple mechanic. This is just kind of a dumbed down, simple version until we get more power consumers and more dupes to run on manual generators, etc., etc. So we have 2 smart batteries here. This one is set on 9060. And as you saw, these lights turned on because the automation on the smart battery said, hey, we are below 60%. We need someone to come run on this. This one is set on 9030. So it'll turn on when the batteries get below 30. And you'll see these 2 lights turn on, which is just a visual indicator of saying, hey, we need 2 dupes to come over to these wheels. Now, right now I have the dupes queued up for a lot of different things, so it's probably why they're not just hauling butt to get over here. But eventually we'll just have runners, and their whole job will be set on high priority for operating machines, which will send them over to this manual generator. Here comes Bert now. He's going to come run on a generator, followed by Abe. And because we don't have much consuming power right now, it only takes 1 dupe to run the whole colony on power. But eventually, we'll have 20, 30 manual generators. As a reminder, each manual generator produces 400 watts. So to kind of put it in your brain, if you're used to saying coal generation, coal generators produce 600 watts. So these 4 generators represent about 3 coal generators. We are going to continue improving this setup. Eventually, we'll have a formal hamster cage, and it's going to be packed full of decor. It'll have all the bells and whistles. What's also key is these airflow tiles, because the longer the dupes run on wheels, the more carbon dioxide they're producing, and we need something to do with all that carbon dioxide. In this case, we're letting it float down, and our oxiferns are taking care of it. Now, right now, it's not a very good visual indicator because everything's sort of dumped down into here. We're just getting the last couple of salt vines, and then we're going to seal this all back up again. Well, there's another one. And another one. Another new addition from the patch recently is this tiny little hand sanitizer. It now only takes 1 tile wide and 3 tiles high. Oh, we're going to have some fun and some rockets this time. We found another wonderful addition to the colony, even though I was really eyeballing some early barbecue. Frankie is a supplying, tidying, building machine with twinkle toes and a small bladder. He will definitely be our cleanup specialist and eventually plumber. So in the background, thanks to our awesome researcher, we've managed to get a ton of the Tier 1 and Tier 2 research completed. We'll probably have most of that finished up by next episode, and I think that's a pretty good start there. Additionally, we're down to about 60,000 kilos of hexalin fruit, so we decided to put in some planter boxes so we can start getting the pickled meal going. We have our beautiful electric grill here, and it'll produce us all the pickled meal that we need. And the reason why we're going directly to pickled meal is for a couple of reasons. Remember, when you have pickled meal, it's cooked. So any food poisoning germs that were on the meal lice are then going to be eradicated. Second, it's because pickled meal is not too bad for spoil time. It takes 32 cycles for it to finally go off. Not too shabby. But I think the start of the next episode is going to be tapping into one of these geysers. Love to hear your opinion on which one we should tap into. And remember, your options are the polluted water one here in the cool slush geyser, or the brine and the cool salt slush geyser down here. Normally, I just take which one ever outputs the most and grab it first. Also looking for a great theme for our dupe names. I was going to go with Marvel characters, but I have another series that I'm thinking about using Marvel characters in. And eventually we will be doing our Beator run, and I wanted to do D&D names for that one. So let me know what you think our dupe names should be in this one, or they could just stay vanilla names. Sometimes it's good to get to know Frankie and Marie, or who Frankie and Marie are. But 60 cycles in, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and what else you'd like to see out of this series. As with any new ONI series, I had a great time playing this. I hope you had fun watching. I'll talk to you soon.